Hi, Mark, and welcome to the current Outside Views report on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. There is much speculation about the reason why the Wagner mercenaries were in Belarus. What are the fighters doing in the country? Well, an opposition politician gives his assessment now. Officially, the mercenaries of the Wagner group are supposed to train the armed forces there in Belarus. However, their future in the country and the possible danger of an attack on Poland are currently being discussed. There is also speculation as to how Belarus feels about its dangerous guests and why ruler Alexander Lukashenko invited them in the first place. A member of the Belarusian opposition has now described his assessment of the situation in Belarus. In an interview with a German newspaper, Pavel Latushka, the country's former Minister of Culture from 2009 to 2012, also spoke about the behavior of the mercenaries in his homeland. Our Belarusian sources tell us that the Wagner mercenaries are walking around in shops with weapons and, forgive the choice of words, harassing Belarusian girls. That is how he's quoted as saying. The security apparatus of ruler Alexander Lukashenko sees no support in the Wagner mercenaries, but a challenge for the security of society. The locals are critical of the presence of the fighters and associated risks to their security. Lukashenko was forced to constantly explain to Belarusians in every public speech why the Wagner group is in their country. Latushka lives in exile in Warsaw and is considered a harsh critic of Lukashenko and his government. He is deputy head of the Belarusian interim cabinet set up in opposition by suspected 2020 presidential candidate Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. At the time, the now 40-year-old competed against Lukashenko and, according to her supporters, had also won. However, the electoral authorities declared the incumbent the winner, who has ruled the country with an iron fist for almost 30 years and has taken action against his opponents. Tikhanovskaya fled abroad after the election. A year ago, she founded a self-proclaimed government in exile and has opened around 20 alternative embassies and information centers abroad. After the brief uprising of the Wagner mercenaries in Russia at the end of June, Lukashenko brokered an agreement with the Kremlin that provided for Wagner boss Yevgeny Prigozhin to go into exile in Belarus. His mercenaries were given the choice of either joining the Russian armed forces or settling in Belarus as well. Lukashenko later stated that Wagner fighters were received in his country. Since then, there has been great concern about an attack, especially in the neighboring countries of Poland and Lithuania. It was only at the end of July that Lukashenko threatened to let the mercenaries loose on Warsaw during a meeting with Vladimir Putin. According to Latushka, Lukashenko wanted to protect himself by inviting the Wagner mercenaries, because if Prigozhin had reached Moscow, it would probably have gotten to him too. After all, Putin and Lukashenko are in the same boat, and a hole in this boat would mean that the boat would sink together with its two passengers, Putin and Lukashenko, said Latushka. According to estimates by the opposition, there are currently up to 6,000 Wagner mercenaries in Belarus. Most of them stayed in the village of Tsel, as well as in military camps near Osipovichi. However, the figures cannot be independently verified. We hear statements that 15,000 Wagner mercenaries are to be recalled from vacation and could also be brought to Belarus, said the opposition politician. The Kremlin wants Lukashenko to place the mercenaries in different locations in Belarus. This would increase the risk of destabilizing the situation on the borders with Ukraine and with the NATO member states Poland and Lithuania. Minsk is closely allied with Moscow, and while the country is not directly involved in Moscow's Ukraine offensive, it did allow Russia to use Belarusian territory as a launch pad for its invasion of the neighboring country last year. And if you want to know more about the developments in the Russian war against Ukraine, the next video is here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.